You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 140 of Teach Better Talk. I'm Ray Hewart, and as always, I am with my Monday-loving friend, Jeff Gargis.
I like it. It's a Monday as well, so that makes a lot of sense.
Well, you're not only Monday-loving because we get to do our podcast recording, but you also love Mondays, and that's like your shtick that you always talk about because you love working and you want, just like teachers, we want to be excited to be able to, relax over the weekend and then jump back into it on Monday. And while this is releasing on a Thursday, maybe people will be just really excited for the upcoming Monday.
Yeah, I mean, essentially you should be excited every day or else, obviously some days are harder than others, but you should be excited to do whatever it is you get to do. That's my thing. And if you're not, you should go find something else to do. That's just the reality of it. So I love when people say they love Monday, like our guest today. So
he did say he loved Monday, and we're going to get into that soon because this episode was really good, like yes. A really good one.
Super good.
But I won't lie to you, Jeff. I really love to stay positive, and I feel like I'm a very positive person. I really enjoy my job, all those good things.
I agree with
that. But
I'll
admit, I do sometimes get in a funk like around this time of year. And specifically, a shout out to Illinois right now. It is gloomy and like half snowing, half raining. It's like such a icky time,
Yeah, definitely. It's like this time of the year, this winter time is definitely, I mean, you can seriously get into a funk, the weather, especially if you're in a state that has, winter weather. You can get that gloominess, and in Ohio we get that same type of stuff, and yeah, it can be tough. It makes it a lot harder.
Yeah, it really does, and I just feel like even like the best of us could admit that we have these like ups and downs, and I don't know. I, to be honest with you, I've tried to find so many ways to like how do I get out of my funk, right? Like how can I not allow the weather to kind of dictate how I'm feeling? And for me, I find that like being around good people is a huge part of it. But I'm excited because we have some really cool conferences we're going to be at within the next 2 weeks. And I feel like that I always leave those like on this like epic high of, sharing on topics, learning, being able to network with people. Like, I don't know if you feel the same way, but that kind of rebuilds me up.
Yeah, I do. I think I think surrounding yourself with people, good people all the time is a good idea. It's a great way to help get yourself out of a funk if you're feeling it, whether it's a winter funk or just the, negativity is funk, because sometimes that happens. But surrounding yourself, and you can do that in a lot of ways. You can do that by reading books from people. You can do that by connecting on social media. You can do that by, listen to podcasts. But I think an awesome way to do that is getting out to events and stuff. So like like you mentioned, we have some really cool conferences coming up. And I think, those are, it's hard not to leave a conference not on a high, you know what I mean? Like, because you're there, you're interacting with people. It's all other people who are trying to better themselves as well. So like, you're gonna leave more positive. So it's a great thing to get out. So can we talk about some of the ones that we're going to? Is that where you're going with this, or?
Well, sure. Like we can give a shout out to the conferences we're going to be at within the next 2 weeks, but also no matter where you are, like this is I don't know like how to phrase this because it sounds silly, but this is really a prime time for conferences. Like there seems to be these like waves where conferences are pretty popular. It makes sense for the school year and all that stuff. And so we're kind of like in one or entering into one of those like hot times right now. So if we're not giving a shout out for a conference that is around your area, my guess is there's probably one that exists. So you should probably just Google it because you'll find some for sure.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great call. Yeah. So
you're going to be in Michigan at the end of January, right when this podcast releases?
Yeah, like just a couple days after on the 27th, I'm going to be there on Monday. Up in Michigan in Grand Rapids at it's the Michigan Career Education Conference. So super pumped about that. I'm actually doing the session that you normally do with me, which is podcasting. So I'm gonna be there. I'm getting to connect with some awesome people on my way up through Michigan and when I'm in Grand Rapids and stuff too. So I'm super excited to hang out there. you're going to Chicago. The same week that you're in Chicago, I'm down in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, I'll be at the ESSA conference in Chicago, February 10th and 11th, doing, like 4 different sessions. And during like the tail end of Chicago wrapping up, you're going to be in Ohio, is it, doing a conference?
Yeah, I'm down in Columbus at OETC, which is the Ohio Education Tech Conference, which is right down in Columbus. So I'll be down there on February 11th.
Then we get to come together. So yeah, you can talk about Ohio for a second, but then the next conference we're together at.
Yeah, IdeaCon, which is at the end of February.
Yes, it's the end of
And that's out in Illinois again. I actually don't know where that's at. Where's that at? What city is that in?
It's in Schaumburg, so it's in like the
In
suburbs of
Schaumburg, that's
Chicago.
right, yeah. Yeah. We're pumped about that one. We're gonna be out there for a few days, and we're gonna have the book out there. We're gonna be doing some signing of the book and stuff like that. And doing some speaking and stuff. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then actually the day after, I'm doing some professional development for Kane County, which is also Chicagoland County, which will be fun. So it's just,
shout out to Kane County.
Yeah, Kane County doing fun stuff, and actually Caitlin Giordano is also presenting at that event as well.
I'm pretty sure I'm coming to Kane County now.
Dun, dun.
Just saying it. I'd love to say it's for Kane County or for you, but I'm pretty sure it's because Caitlin's going to be there.
It's for
Caitlin. And Caitlin's awesome. Yeah, so Caitlin gets a shout out as well. No, so super excited. We got a lot of good stuff going on. We could keep going with the list, but let's stay with that. That's a really good one. I want to get into this episode because you alluded to it. This was really a great episode. He really, right from the start, Aaron just gets us going. So Aaron Else is a elementary school principal at Hosp Elementary, which is in Frisco, Texas. He's been in education for 21 years, 13 years as an administrator, and he loves Mondays. That's my biggest thing. Is I love his positivity, his outlook on his job and what he gets to do, and the passion that you can just feel from him the entire time. I thought his failure has a great message in it. I love the type of culture that he is building and they are working to build in their school. And actually what I really love, I'm going to correct myself because I love that the way he talks about it is always we, never I, or what I did or what I'm trying to do. It's always what we're doing, what we're building, what we're creating. And I love the focus we have there. This was a really good episode. I'm super excited for everyone to take away a lot from Aaron. He talks a lot about building relationships and connecting, but the type of environment that they're trying to create for their kids, what they're focused on. Spoiler alert, it's not state testing, but just what they're trying to build there is just super cool, and I'm really excited for everyone to listen. Ray, anything you want people to grab out specifically that's coming to mind?
Specifically, I just felt like he spoke about a number of different topics that this podcast recording could have probably been 2 or 3 times longer than we actually had it, because we know we like to be consistent for all of our listeners, but holy cow, did he dive into so much. So I just want you guys to know that as you're listening to his answers, like, make sure to pop him a message. He's super responsive on Twitter. He'd be a great mentor to like dive it deeper into some of these topics he discusses. So go after it. He's a great guy.
And with that, let's get an episode 140 with Aaron Else.
Hey everyone, it's Ray. We're going to get right back to the episode, but we have to talk about Mastery Chat real quick. Hashtag Mastery Chat is our conversation every single week over on Twitter, happening Thursday nights at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. I never thought a Twitter chat could be more intense, but holy cow, do I love Mastery Chat nights. Really rich discussion, educators from across the world, and I always leave with a new idea that I'm ready to use in my classroom Friday morning. Don't forget to mark your calendars for Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern, and we will see you over on Twitter. Now let's get back to the episode.
All right, we are here and we are chatting with Aaron Else. And Aaron, you and I connected on Twitter, I don't know how long ago. Then we connected, I think, via phone or maybe a video hangout. I can't remember. Like this past summer, we had a good conversation. We chatted. I was like, hey, you need to come on the podcast. And here we are.
All right.
So super excited to have you on. Super excited to kind of dive into your head and learn about you, learn about your story. But before we go too far, man, how you feeling right now?
I'm feeling great. Mondays are always my favorite day because I get to come back to work. And so this is a Monday for us. And it was great to come back to work and get to see our kids again.
You know, I love that, Ray, when someone says they love Mondays.
I know. I was going to say, you pulled a Jeff Gargas line. Mondays is just so great, too. I love it. I think anytime you're excited to go to work, it means you're in the right job.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not excited coming to work with amazing kids every day, then yeah, you need to rethink a little bit. Because for me, I get excited when Monday comes around.
Well, Aaron, I want to make sure our listeners get to learn all about you as you continue to share this great insight with us. Can you tell us, how do you normally answer the question of what you do?
Yeah, that one's kind of fun because I always like seeing the reaction, because usually, neighbors or people in the community that you meet, they kind of raise an eyebrow when you say you're a school principal. There is something about that people kind of think of one way or another. Oftentimes I find that people often hold that position in high regard, but first and foremost, I think of myself in terms of everything I do as an optimist. I think that, we're going to get the best out of everything we do every day. And for me, like I was kind of saying, it's rewarding because I get to work with kids, and I get to come to work every day and watch these kids grow and learn and struggle and fail and get back up again, and watch them take on challenges. It really makes me, you can't help but be optimistic when you're hanging around a bunch of kindergartners. And so for me, when I tell people what I do, usually people want to know more. They want to know more about the job and really what I think about it. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, I'm excited right now because, anyone who's listening knows that when you said you love Mondays, I got super excited, and you continued with the positivity and optimism and loving what you're doing, and that's such an important piece of it. So I love that. The other thing that I love doing is talking about failure. And I love talking about the experiences that we've had, good and bad, and the way we've learned from them. So I'm hoping, Aaron, can you tell us a story? Tell us about a time in your life that you've had a failure or a challenge like that. Tell us what happened. How did you overcome that? And what did you take away from that experience?
Yeah, just like everybody else, I've failed a lot. For me, my biggest failure, I think, was, not speaking of one instance, in particular, but just being young and in the field and thinking I knew it all, and thinking, when I'd kind of go into professional learnings, 15 years ago and think, all right, I'll get what I can out of this, but really, I already know all this stuff. And my biggest failure was my ego going into things. And over time, as you kind of experience more and go through life a little more, you kind of realize how much you don't know. And you kind of realize that you've got a lot to learn. And so over the years, I realized I really do have a lot to learn. And I've had some, readings and advisors and mentors that have changed my life. And I realized that I was kind of my own biggest problem when I was younger. And I realize now that I've got to constantly be a student of my profession and constantly be seeking to grow and learn from, like, connecting with you on Twitter, Jeff, and just tapping into your knowledge. I love hearing what other people think and do and how they handle things, because no matter what, I'm going to grow and learn from them. So I'm always seeking knowledge, because if I can get one thing every day that helps me get a little bit better, then that's going to help me on the road to success. It doesn't mean I'm not going to fail again, because I will. I'll fail tomorrow. But I definitely have more of a learner's mindset now than I did, when I was much younger.
Aaron, I'm not sure if you know it or not, but you just like completely perfectly wrapped up the whole teach better mindset into that answer. Loving it. I love that. That's how I try to always look at everything that's going on in my world, and that it's a continually learning. I was the same way when I was younger as well, always thinking, so often I thought that I knew everything, and had to take some pretty hard falls to realize that I needed to try and learn every single day that I can, which is why I now host a podcast with Ray, so that I can learn every day from her.
Yeah, okay,
right. Absolutely. That sounded pretty cheesy there, Jeff Gargas.
It didn't sound sincere. I'll try it again later.
It didn't sound sincere.
I'll do a voiceover on it and get very, very sincere. I'll work on it a little bit. We'll do a couple takes.
That'd be great.
There you go.
It'd be good.
That's right.
All right, Aaron. Now let's flip that around. Now let's talk about a successful moment you had. And this can be something big or something small, but tell us what happened. Why was it a successful moment for you? And then what did you take away from that?
Yeah, I'm glad that this is a question that you bring up, because it was funny today. Like we had a staff development today, and one of the things the presenter talked about is taking time to celebrate the success you have, and because we don't do it enough, and certainly a lot of people outside of education don't do it enough either in terms of celebrating what we do. But my biggest success for me, outside of my family, is just that building a culture in our school that we're going to take risks. We do fine in terms of state assessments. That's great, but we don't focus on it. We focus on getting our students to grow. We focus on meeting the social and emotional needs of our students every day, celebrating growth, having fun, celebrating life. We know the results will follow when the students are in a place where they feel safe, they feel welcome, they feel like it's a second home, they feel like they have family. That's kind of part of the reason we kind of moved towards the house system at our school. We just feel like the success of academics will take care of themselves if we get kids to get out of bed in the morning and say, I can't wait to go to school today. And they come home sharing stories about all the great things that happen. And so for me, because we built that culture here, that we're going to do that. We're going to take risks. Early on, we told our staff that I gave them a lot of freedom. I said, you can make any decision you want if you feel it's going to help kids. So we just tell them, go, create, do. Don't worry about anything. If you're acting in the best interest or you're going to try something to help kids, you're doing the right thing.
Gosh, Aaron, you spoke on so many different things that I so wholeheartedly believe in, but I want you to elaborate more if that's okay. You mentioned a lot of different pieces. One that I specifically identified with was, obviously, we talked about this before the recording started, the house system that you guys use. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, so we do the house system, which a lot of that kind of originates from Ron Clark, the Ron Clark Academy in Atlanta. I got to go see him last spring. It's something, though, that we've kind of talked about doing for a while. The reason, if you're not familiar with it, for us, the way we set up our house system, and other schools do it differently, but for us, instead of like your typical hallway being kindergarten, first grade, whatever, every hallway here at our school is K through 5. And then we're split up into 3 different houses here. And the reason we did that is that we wanted kids to have relationships K through 5, and we wanted teachers to be invested in those students K through 5 in that house. And so they know those kids the whole time, because for the most part, our kids stay in the same house all the way through. And so those teachers are always going to know them. And along the way, we tell them, you need to be fully invested. So if you're a 5th grade teacher and that kiddo's in kindergarten, that kid's yours too. And you need to be fully invested in getting to know that student, building a relationship with that student, because we all know, it all starts with relationships. But making sure too, along the way, those kids are developing a bond in a family type atmosphere. And it's gone over well because our parents see it in the community. They see kids that when they have kind of hangouts or hanging out with a buddy, it may be I'm a 5th grader and I'm hanging out with a 3rd grader or a 2nd grader, or I now have relationships with the kids in the neighborhood that I wouldn't otherwise get to do. I still have a lot of time for learning and time spent with their peers, but they also get a lot of opportunity to work with kids across grade level because their learning standards spiral. And so what they're learning in 1st grade, they're going to learn in 5th grade just at a deeper level. And so it's a great opportunity for our kids to teach and learn from each other.
Wow, I love that. I mean, obviously, that is something that has continued to resonate with schools across the country. Ron Clark Academy is doing great work in that space, but it's always so exciting for me when I see that idea then duplicated in another school, because, you add your own, flair. And I mean, even just the way you described it then, you guys have put so much focus on that. Really being important and valuable for the students. I just could listen to it all day.
Yeah. It gets me excited, and seeing it in action is a lot of fun too, because it does become, such a family type atmosphere.
So I have to know, Aaron, with everything that you're involved in right now, all the work that you're, working on in your school building, or even just the work that you're doing outside of being a principal, what's exciting you right now? What's fueling your fire and keeping you, really invested in education?
I just love the way that education's headed. I mean, I think for in a lot of different ways, education gets a bad kind of stigmatism around it for whatever reason. We have so many critics. Everyone that thinks they went to school in one way or another says, well, I understand because I went to school, not knowing how much it's changed over time and just seeing the way we're going. Twitter for me has been huge because I get to see what's going on around the globe with education. And what I see, I can't help but get excited because we're creating problem solvers. We're teaching kids grit. We're teaching kids that failure is okay. We're teaching kids that mindset is important. We're focusing more on social and emotional needs. We're getting kids to think just globally and not just locally. When we're talking about solving problems, these are real world problems that we're talking about in the classroom. It's no longer skill and drill. It's more about problem solving and creativity and collaborative processes that kids are going to have to understand. And kids are going to have to understand that global mindset because we all know somebody or many that work for companies that they fly over the world and they work with people around the globe, and they've got to understand culture and they've got to understand tradition. And they've got to understand, what something means in one country or one culture and be able to work and problem solve with people from around the globe. And to me, we're building that with our kids now. And when we think about the problems in the world today, and people kind of get down about problems in the world, I get excited because I keep thinking these kids, this generation of kids that we're working with, they're going to fix a lot of those problems. They're going to solve a lot of those problems. And it gets me fired up.
Man, Aaron, I feel like I could talk to you all day. There are so many things. Every single time I ask you a question, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so aligned to my belief, but also just so exciting. Like I'm excited hearing about what is exciting you. I just think that's so cool. Our fifth question, I guess, is always something I love to ask administrators, not to like put you in a bubble, but this is always a good one. And it has to do with advice. So if you were, speaking to a new teacher or maybe even a teacher that has been teaching for a very long time and loves what they're doing, and they're really trying to continue in this progressive mindset, you just touched on so many things that are changing in the world of education. And you've then reflected on the things that need to be adapted to really prepare those students. So what advice do our teachers need to, continue to reach their students more deeply?
Yeah, I would say don't be 23-year-old me. Don't come in with you got to ask a lot of questions. You have to seek out the answers. I always tell our teachers, especially young teachers when I hire them, your goal is to become the expert in your field. Your goal is to view yourself as an expert in your field, and that does require some extra work. So I always tell them about a rule I have of like a 20-minute rule. If you spend 20 minutes a day, just 20 minutes, reading a blog, watching a YouTube, vlogger that you follow, reading a book, something related to your profession to make yourself better, every day, if you do 20 minutes, down the road, you are going to be that expert that your kids need, and that your parents expect you to be. And to be honest, it's what they deserve. Every kid deserves a teacher in their classroom that's an expert in their field, that's well-read, that's up on the latest and greatest, and is willing to take risks to hopefully propel their education forward. And so that's what I would tell them. Just constantly be seeking the knowledge, be seeking the learning to better yourself. And everybody's got 20 minutes a day. Everyone does. You got 20 minutes somewhere. And I know you do because when I kind of call teachers out on it sometimes if they come in and they watch, or they sit down to Netflix and they binge on a series and they're coming in and talk about it. I'm like, you had 20 minutes. you could have spent 20 minutes there and read a little bit or watched a little bit and to kind of help yourself grow.
It's all about that priorities and getting it set. I love the 20 minutes a day reading. It's interesting. I'm doing something that's called the 75 Hard Challenge. There's a bunch of different pieces to it, but one of the pieces is actually to just read 10 pages a day. But the catch to that is that he really focuses on 10 pages of actively reading, which means taking notes, taking something from it, and actually
Right.
trying to put it in action.
Yeah.
And it's been super powerful for me over the last 3 weeks here. So if you can add
Right.
20 minutes a day of reading, I mean, you can do that in a lot of different ways. I think even if that's reading, if you're someone who's more auditory and you want to do podcasts, doing something for 20 minutes a day, that's awesome. I love that advice.
Well, yeah, and just to kind of piggyback on that, and it's kind of like I heard someone say, how can you be a writing teacher and not write if you're not writing a blog or if you're not writing stories? How can you be a scientist and not be reading scientific magazines or staying in tune what's going on related to the science world? And so you have to be that. It kind of goes back to being the expert that your kids deserve.
I love this kids deserve it mentality. That I think that's good. That's good.
Loving it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's have some fun now. We're going to do the next 6 questions, and your goal is to answer each one in 15 seconds or less. You ready to go?
Okay. All right, I'm going to try.
All right, what is one ed tech tool you cannot live without?
For me, it's Twitter. I'm on it all the time. I learn so much on Twitter. To me, it's changed what I do tremendously.
Give us a book that you're reading right now.
I'm reading Call Sign Chaos by General Mattis, and it's I've kind of dove into that a little bit. Jocko Willink got me kind of thinking that mindset with his books, and it's been eye-opening to read about other leaders.
Who do we need to follow on Twitter or Instagram today?
I'm just a big Twitter guy. Trevor Reagan, if you haven't checked him out, his Learner Lab stuff is amazing. You need to go see what he's talking about with Jungle Tiger. An old classmate of mine from high school, Martina Wagner, is doing tremendous work with ELL learners up in Minnesota. And then my colleague, John Eric Zaire, Z Learn More, Mr. Z's principal at a high school here, and he's awesome.
Let's see. Give us a good YouTube channel or website for educators.
For me, YouTube, every day I get up and watch it. Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. He wrote 3 great books. He wrote a number of great books, but Obstacle is the Way, Ego is the Enemy, and Stillness is the Key, all to deal with Stoicism, and everybody can learn from it.
Give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Journaling, I think, is huge, just because at the end of the day, if you kind of are journaling throughout and you take a minute to reflect, it's just amazing what you can learn from yourself if you just take a moment to reflect upon what you did and how you handle things.
So true. And lastly, give us the best piece of advice you've ever received.
That goes to my mom. She always, and I used to say it's corny, she had all the cliches, right? Moms always do. And she said, and I joked and I said, no more cliches, Mom. I'm tired of it. I don't want to hear anymore. And she just said, the secret to life is in cliches. Just listen to them. So it took me a while to get that, but it sunk in after a while. And I'm glad I listened to that.
I like that cool. one.
Me too.
Yeah.
Man, is that trophy worthy, Jeff?
I think this entire episode has been trophy worthy.
It really has been, Aaron. This is like super trophy.
Right. He started with I Love Mondays. I mean, like from that moment on, I've been like game on. Like, where are all my trophies?
Seriously, it's totally true. If there was a trophy for like best intro, you might have won it right then and there.
I'll take it. Yeah. I'll take it. I love it.
That's awesome. Well, Aaron, I want to make sure everyone connects with you because while this episode's been great, you actually share out amazing content always. And I want people to connect with you on Twitter and through everything else that you're doing, including your school, which seems to be doing a lot of amazing stuff. Would you mind kind of sharing how people can stay connected?
Main way is just Twitter, just at Principal Else, E-L-S as in Sam, E, like who else, what else? I'm on there a lot. I love sharing our story. I love celebrating what we're doing. I'm pretty active on there, so that's the best place to find me.
Awesome. And you can find everything we talked about, all the resources and everything in this episode over at teachbetter.com, the show notes, as well as the links to make sure you can connect with Aaron to keep the conversation going. So head over to teachbetter.com for all of that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and a review, we'd really appreciate that as well. Let's keep taking this one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and share this podcast with them. Aaron, this was awesome, man. Really just a great episode. I'm so glad that we connected via Twitter and we're like, hey, let's jump on a call. We had a great call. I think you were just getting ready to get in like your first meeting with your teachers at the time. We've stayed in contact, got you on the podcast. Super excited for everyone to hear this. Just really appreciate your time, your insight, and your awesomeness, man. Thank you.
Hey, thank you both, Ray, Jeff. You guys are inspiring, and I love seeing what you guys are up to and listening to the podcast and checking out your website. It's just packed full of awesome stuff, and I can't thank you enough for what you all are doing for education.
We appreciate that a whole lot. And until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.